Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've had a video up here, and the reason for that is I've been working basically non-stop recently on getting this album finished so that it can be released later this year. I haven't had so much time to be making these videos, but I wanted to actually talk about the album today in this video, so here's a new video for you. The topic will be about the artists and albums and overall inspirations that went into this album for me. Some of them are directly responsible for specific songs, others are just more overall influences. I noticed a few artists I really like have done similar videos like this recently, and I found it very interesting and helpful and enlightening as a listener to learn about what they were listening to while recording the album, or what artists really had a big impact on this specific album for them. So I want to do the same for you, and in the process share some music that I really love and to kind of give you a preview of what will be on my record. I want to start with the records that have been with me for the longest. We'll kind of do some slightly chronologically here. Starting with this album here, Strength in Numbers. Wow, this has been with me probably since middle school. This was I think the second version they printed with this cover with a bunch of digits and plus and minus and equal signs on this. But here's the original cover. I think I like this one a little bit better, but this one's kind of nostalgic, so I had this one first. But anyways, this is the super group of Béla Fleck, Edgar Meyer, Sam Bush, Mark O'Connor, Jerry Douglas, and together there are 10 tracks. Absolutely flawless. This had a profound impact on me because I had never heard any music sound like this until I heard this album, and it really opened up a whole new world. Shortly after I graduated from college, I started to think about these compositions. They certainly have some jazz influence in them, and I wondered what if they were pushed kind of to the maximum of that and put into more of a bebop context. Switch up the instrumentation, leave the melody, leave the harmony, but kind of change the feel and change the style. It was very, it was always on my mind to do this. And I thought, oh, maybe one day I would do like a track by track tribute to this album because I love every one of these songs. They're all incredible. But then I thought, for this specific project, as things happened and evolved and changed, one track became very important for me, very personal, so I have included one track from this album on my upcoming album, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Next, an album that's been with me almost as long as that is this one here. And this is from Béla Fleck, Tales from the Acoustic Planet, Volume 2, the Bluegrass Sessions, with a supergroup band, Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas, Stuart Duncan, Tony Rice, Mark Schatz, Vassar Clements is on a lot of the songs. So Tony and Vassar, those are two people that truly are probably the main reason why I'm even a musician today. I think without their music I would have lost interest a long time ago, and I've told you that in previous videos. This record, again, was another huge eye-opener, mind-opener, ear-opener, all of the above. It was music that was so fresh and so new while still being played with a bluegrass feel on bluegrass instruments. And I realized that, ironically, for my personal musical analysis of this record, although it's all Béla's work and production and songwriting and composition, the person who really defines the sound of this album, I think, is Tony Rice. His guitar playing has, at this point, has developed an entirely new sound, a new style. His solos on this are just mind-blowing. But what's even more is his rhythm, or his comping, his fills. He doesn't even need to be taking a solo. He doesn't. He's not even high up in the mix on some of these things, but he will do something so phenomenal and so fresh and new to the bluegrass idiom that you all, for me at least, all you can focus on is his guitar work. And this album, like I said, it's got Béla's name on the front. It's his record, but for me, it's Tony Rice who really defines this record. So there, I'm covering a track off of this album as kind of my nod to Tony, to the legacy of Tony Rice, because for me, I don't know, this album would be radically different if it was any other guitar player. Not to say it's better or worse, just it'd be worlds different. What Tony contributed here was just really mind-blowing, and forever number one favorite record right here. Let's see, speaking of Tony, there's a lot of ways that Tony Rice influenced me, a lot of albums of his, but there's one that I think is one that I would simply call true perfection, that has really had a massive impact on me in a number of ways, but I think primarily just as it to me set the standard of the highest caliber quality bluegrass, and that is actually the Rice Brothers album. A lot of talent in the Rice family with these four, and the combination of his incredibly great voice singing lead on all these tunes, him and his brother both taking incredibly great guitar solos, Larry's fine touch on the mandolin. They have a few special guests to bring it together, some banjo and dobro on here, and together, for me, this just really was kind of like the golden standard of what a bluegrass record should sound like. So when I realized that when I look back at all the ways in which Tony influenced me, I think this record was probably the strongest of all of those, as well as the previous example of Béla Fleck's record. He does a great tune on here that is a song by the great Red Allen, and I really love Red Allen's songwriting, and Tony did too, and I could not help but cover this one. A number of other bands have covered it. I love the tune, and so I had to put that on my record, Teardrops in Your Eyes, and Teardrops in My Eyes, excuse me, or maybe yours too. But this record, huge. Indirectly a connection to Tony, because this next artist worked with Tony on one track on a later album. This album I have been listening to for years. I've had this a very long time, and this is by one of my greatest heroes, and now I can say colleague and friend, Radim Zenkl from Czech Republic. This album, Galactic Mandolin, I heard it, I think it was on a compilation from David Risman's acoustic disc label. The song Far Away Over the Mountains was a track on a compilation. I heard it and immediately just fell in love with Radim's tone, his ideas, everything about this album. This album is really a perfect intro to just what a genius Radim Zenkl is. Every track he uses a different tuning on the mandolin, and you can read on the back. There's 13 tracks. The first one starts in unison, then it's minor second, major second, and it just goes all the way up to the last track being tuned in octaves. Each of the mandolin strings, there's 2 strings per note, so he's leaving one note, what it usually is, and then tuning the other string to some interval of that note. Really prolific. I mean, what a way to have a debut album was with this genius idea, and it's entirely solo, yet it's so invigorating. You'd think you're listening to a huge ensemble. I mean, it's really a remarkable album. This made me a Radim hero, a huge fan for life, and now I can say that Radim Zenkl's on my record. And that is surreal to say, because I've been listening to his music since I was a kid, and I've got all of his records, and to finally have him on my own project. His mandolin playing is just as great as ever. I love it, and I'm truly lucky to have, in my opinion, one of the world's greatest mandolin players ever. And this record is immediate proof. You don't need to look any further. Now for another Czech connection, this record here, Robert Kreston and Druhá Tráva, Polenice, this record, this is maybe the most recent influence out of all the influences that came into making my album. There was there was a desire of mine to record a song in Czech for a long time. Uh, Probably around the same time I was thinking about the Strength in Numbers album. I was also listening to the one and only Druhá Tráva album you could get on streaming back then. And I was trying to find a song that I might like to learn the lyrics to in Czech and sing it on a project someday in the future. This album I picked up at a used shop in Czech Republic on my very first trip there, and that was an amazing trip, probably the best of my life, and a lot of memories, a lot of great moments, and meeting my heroes. And when I got back to the U.S., I was on a train ride back home, and I had some time, and I turned this album on and listened to it, and just the beautiful music kind of just was like a perfect soundtrack for that moment and that amazing feeling of returning. And I'll never forget how great that felt. And the song that happened to start playing was Tanečnice, or Dancer. And it was at that moment I instantly knew that that would be the song I would sing and cover. The Czech lyrics are absolutely insane for my tongue, so there's a lot of English in there, but there is a little bit of Czech. I put it in at the end. It was about as all I could do for this record. Maybe next record will have the entire thing in Czech, but these guys, they're just absolutely great. This record itself is a masterpiece from start to finish. Those are specific records and specific artists that have a direct correlation to a song that is on my album. No, actually, there's one more. I'm sorry, I forgot it back here. And that is Herb Pedersen. Now, Herb Pedersen, there is a specific song of his that's on my record, but and it's from this record from Southwest. But moreover, Herb Pedersen is just one of those huge figures that has been on my musical radar and in my ears for years. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, some he was on some album or another, or in a band that I was listening to. Right after college, I really started to fall in love with the Desert Rose Band, which he was in. Then I was listening a lot to a lot of his duet records with Chris Hillman. And this one has been out of print for a long time, so it took me a while to get this one. But his production, his amazing singing voice, his great banjo playing, the country sound he achieved, everything about it has been an impact on my sound and my ideas coming to this record. This pedal steel guitar, I cannot name one specific direct influence, but the just overall pedal steel guitar has been a massive part of this record. And that, of course, was in the Desert Rose Band and on the Chris Hillman, Herb Pedersen duet CDs. So that kind of sound, that sound has had a huge impact. I'm doing one tune from this album on the record that Herb wrote, but overall, just that sound, kind of that Bakersfield country sound, is something I really fell in love with, and it's only on my album a tiny little bit, but it's there, and it's forever is going to be a huge part of the sound that I love. I just love that style of music and that sound, the beautiful cry of the pedal steel. That's all I want to hear. You can take everything else off of that album, just leave the pedal steel, and I'll still be happy with it. And lastly, for this, let me check my list. Two last things for this record. The artist Talum. Talum is a great friend of mine, and I have almost all of his records. I'm missing a few. There's not a single one that is specifically inspiring me on this record, but just his entire work as a whole. His sound, his approach, his thinking, all of it has been very inspirational to me as an artist, and of course some of that translated to something you'll hear on the album. And he is also a special guest on this record, so Take a look at Talam's music. He's got a lot of really great records, so just choose one and you'll be happy with it. Then lastly is a composer, I will probably butcher the name, but it's a Greek film composer, Manos Hadjidakis, and I love his work. I think almost every American musician knows a tune he wrote called Never on a Sunday. I grew up, I saw it on a bluegrass CD, even I think it had like, songwriter credits in parentheses as traditional. Well, it's not traditional. He wrote it. He also wrote a lot of other great film pieces, and one of those will be on my record. I don't want to spoil it yet, but you'll just have to stay tuned and see what it is. But his film scoring was, for me, above and beyond any other film scorer on earth. His compositional style was so unique, really detailed, really genius. So his work has had a huge influence on my music for a long time, but even more so recently with a specific film that he scored for. So you'll have to wait and see about that one. But that's kind of my secret I'm saving for that one. But I hope this gives you an idea of what kind of was in my ears and mind going into making this album. This maybe is not a comprehensive list, but it's pretty much close to having all the music that went into making this record. So eager for you to hear it, and see you in the next video.